What up, Elevation Youth? Today we're going to be doing a design tutorial. I'm going to be showing you how to design this poster. Let's get into it. All right, so I have this design pulled up, grabbed it from Pinterest. That's where I get a lot of my inspiration from. Okay, so I have this poster of Pastor Steven pulled in, which I like a lot. First step, if we look back at this design, it's really grainy. It's got a red and black color palette going on. The text is really tight. Okay, so for this, we're going to start with the threshold. You can find it over here in the adjustments panel. So if we click on that, this looks like an absolute mess, but that's okay because you can click on this slider to adjust the brightness and detail of your image. So right now it's kind of like a huge mess, but you know, that's kind of the look. On top of this threshold, we are going to throw a gradient map on top. So what a gradient map does essentially is it takes your darkest values and your lightest values and changes that to whatever colors you want. So for this, we're going to keep our blacks as black and then make our lightest value a red. I think that's pretty good red. So now that we have that, we can, you know what? I'm going to say that this is a little too distorted for me. So I'm going to go ahead and take the threshold off. Okay, still looks a little funky. That's okay. If you drag your colors closer together, it almost gives you the same effect as a threshold, but it isn't as extreme. So somewhere around there, right? Another thing we can do for some texture is we could add some noise. So if you go up here to filter, I like to go to camera raw filter. If you don't have that in your settings, that's okay. You can go to noise, add noise, and then you just kind of mess around with this slider, see what you can get, you know, maybe not too much, make it a little subtle like that. Cool. All right, let's look back at our design. Got like a little strip for the text. So what we can do, get our rectangle tool, which the quick key is U. So if you hit U and then just click and drag. Okay, that's good. Maybe adjust our image a little bit, move it up. It's cool. We can make that rectangle the same color as our red. Pick our font, Dharma Gothic. Okay. Over here, this is the spacing of the letters, so it's called kerning. If you bring that down, it'll get a little closer to the look that we're looking for. So maybe a little less, kind of hard to read. Make it black. Okay. If you want to change the color, you can click over here in the color selector. Make it black, move it down. So like I said, we're going to say don't. Actually, I hate this idea. Let's do something else. It's typically how it goes. Let's grab this rectangle again. Let's just move it this way, just like they did in our inspiration image. Move it there. Move this over. Okay. All right. We have a little more to work with from here. So let's go write this title again. Don't, if I could spell, don't tap out. Adjust the letter spacing, the line spacing up here in the character window. Make it smaller. So we can do this again. Just adjust that there. Maybe right align it. That's what I'm thinking. Feels like that's what's best. It's what I'm feeling. It's what feels right, you know. Okay, let's drag this down, maybe. Tap in. Nice and bold. Looking good so far. So something I noticed in this image is that they kind of grabbed a smaller version of the image, you know, made a little space for it. We can do that. So let's make a rectangle by hitting U. It's your quick key. Then you can click and drag. Let's make it about the same width as the text. Match it up. We're going to make sure over here in the layers panel, we're going to drag this rectangle down under the gradient map. Then we're going to option click and drag the image above it. From there, we're going to hit option again until you see this little icon pop up between your layers. So go between your rectangle and your image. Click there, and now you're like, bro, what did that even do? I'll show you. What that did was create a clipping mask. It made a clipping mask, which means that we can now work only inside of that rectangle. So if I make the image smaller and drag it over, it now only lives within that rectangle, which is essentially how they did it here, which is great. So what Pastor Steven did is he referenced Isaiah 27, 1 through 6. So what we can do here to get that same effect as this is if you click and drag a text box like this in the space, you can make sure it's aligned. Make the text smaller like this. You know, space out the lining a little better, just like that. Okay, if we go to our paragraph panel and click, let's go with justify all. Let's just copy and paste this. And copy. And Command V or Control V if you're on Windows. That'll paste it. And it looks a little funky right now, which is because of the way the website laid everything out, but that's okay. We can always adjust the line spacing. I hate it. So what we'll do is we'll change it to All right, so let's see. I'd say that this is almost there for sure. One thing I'm going to add is just to fill in this little space right here is the scripture reference. So like I said, Isaiah, make sure I spell this right. Isaiah 27, 1 through 6, which is what we have here. Okay, and then we're just gonna make it bigger. To line up with the text, just like this. Beautiful. We could even move it a little closer to our other text just to keep it nice and tight. And I think that's looking pretty good. So what I would say is going to be the icing on the cake is some texture, some copy scan texture. You can find this online by looking up copy scan texture, download it off of Google. I have it saved in some of my resources over here. Copy scan. Just gonna drag that texture in just like that. You're like, oh no, man, this looks awful. And you're right. So what you can do, make sure that it's on top of all your other layers, right? What we're gonna do is mess with the blend mode. We're gonna go to, I typically like to scroll through, see if there's like a different effect that maybe I haven't used. Might look good for the design. So we're going to set the blend mode to lighten, bring the opacity down so it's not extreme, make it a little more subtle. What I like to do too sometimes is go back to my adjustments. We can go to brightness and contrast, lower the contrast a little bit, up the brightness, just like that. We're going to lower the opacity for this again, just because it's still a little too much, too extreme. And honestly, I would call that a successful design. Definitely matches up pretty well with what we have here. If you wanted to add little things like shapes, I typically do. I get the polygon tool, make a little shape here just to fill in these extra areas, you know. You can be as intentional as you want. You can not. I mean, if you just think it looks cool, that also works. I do that all the time. Let's look at it real quick in all of its glory. Hope that was easy to follow along. We're going to be doing more of these hopefully in the future, and it'll be all things creative and video and design and motion probably. So hope you guys enjoyed it. That is all we have. Enjoy creating and keep it up. All right, that's it.